But I feel like we could have done that to Georgia as well. And I'm not saying hang 66-20 and do all that, but like the plays we made, the plays were there, the opportunities were there. Dean Legge, Ryan Curley, Matt DeBerry talking to you about Dog Post. That was Walker Parks, a player who I don't know who that is that plays for Clemson. Matt, no disrespect, really. No, I don't know who that person is. And that's what he had to say on the podium yesterday. I feel like we could have done that to Georgia as well. I'm not saying hang 66-20 and do all that, but like the plays we made, the plays were there, the opportunities were there.
Well, they didn't make the plays, and I'm not sure the plays exactly were there. But like you, I don't know who this person is. I didn't hear his name much called. If he's on the offensive line, I guess that's a good thing. But listen, you got to be prepared to make the plays when they matter, no matter who the opponent is. And Clemson couldn't do that. And it wasn't a schematic thing. This was a player on player. Georgia's player was winning his battle against the Clemson player, whoever it was, among all position groups. So I think if Clemson played perfect on offense, they still couldn't get to 30 points because Georgia's defense is so good from a talent standpoint, Ryan, and a coaching standpoint. If this cat thinks that they could go out there and do that against Georgia, does he not think Georgia would make the adjustments and do better? I mean, Kirby's still finding out more and more about his team. So is Glenn Schumann. So they would make even more adjustments to figure out the one things that didn't go their way defensively, that they would have been able to do that if a rematch were to occur. But it's just nonsense. But, Ryan, it is pretty funny to hear that.
Yeah, I think if a rematch happened, I could see it being a closer game. You know, two teams that have gotten to experience a little bit of the season going on. Sometimes that first game of the year, it's tough. You got to sort some kinks out. But, I mean, like Matt said, I'm not going to say much different than what he had to say here. This was about Clemson not being as good as Georgia, more so than Clemson just had a really bad game through 2 weeks. That's what I think, right? They go on and look, the stats and what they did to App State was extremely impressive. Like total yards, and almost all of it was accrued in the first half. So super impressive half of football they played against App State. But look, Georgia didn't do well on offense for an entire half and still won 34-3. So this was about Clemson just not being able to do anything on one side of the ball for 4 quarters against the team that, by doing that, kind of stamped, this is why we're ranked number 1 in the country heading into the year. So it's more about them just not being as good.
Yeah, they're not as good, and this is what you do when you're 24. I mean, you're 23. This young man is their starting right guard. He's been at Clemson from 2020 on, so this is year 5 for him. He didn't play a lot last year because of injury, but this is what we do. We decide that we could have played better, we could have been better, all this stuff. I'm not sure that the game would be closer. Just being straight. I mean, look, Clemson, they didn't play Georgia's best offense. I mean, Trevor Etienne was not out there. And again, as I can't remember which of the two of you said it, I think it was Matt talking about adjustments. Clemson couldn't adjust because they couldn't do anything on the line of scrimmage. And I think Clemson's got its whole season in front of it. I will just say this. The notion that they'll play in the playoffs is not a ridiculous one. The schedule is, comparatively speaking, a walk in the park. I mean, I think it's all on the line for Clemson in 2 weeks against NC State. But then they've got Stanford. They play at Florida State. They play at Wake Forest, Virginia, Louisville, at Virginia Tech, at Pitt, Citadel, and South Carolina. Matt, who are they going to lose to for sure? Right, exactly. And let me throw it to you like this. Let's say they get back to the playoff. Let's say Georgia loses. Let's say Georgia's the 3. They don't play in the SEC championship. That makes them the 6th seed, and they face the 11 Clemson Tigers who come to Athens. Who wins that game?
It's Georgia.
Right.
Yeah, it's Georgia. And listen, it's after every loss to say, well, if we would have just executed better, or if we were just a little tougher, or if we coached better, yeah, Georgia could have beat Alabama in the SEC championship last year if they executed better and played their best game when it mattered most. So it's easy to say that when you lose. Oh, well, if we played better, or if we were a better team, maybe we could have won. But
how many plays did Georgia leave on the field in the first half, Matt, do you think?
I mean, several. There were, they settled for 2 field goals, right? And kind of sputtered in the red zone. they could have played a lot better. If Georgia would have executed on offense better, Ryan, then they're scoring way more than 30 points, right? So it's kind of a cop out, but at the end of the day, you have to be ready to execute and to make the plays when they're presented in front of you. And Clemson didn't do that by a mile against Georgia. They did against App State for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was Georgia. If they could have put that offensive half together for the whole game, I mean, we're talking about an Oregon type of blowout in that building from 2 years prior. That's what we're talking. Or we're talking about a Florida State or a TCU. That was on the table for Georgia. It just took them a half to get rolling, dealing with some new personnel. For Clemson, they just never got rolling. So it's one of those things. The ACC is not the same as the SEC, and this is one of those years where that is going to be even more apparent with Oklahoma and Texas in there. You see all these teams ranked at the top in the SEC. I think 6 out of the top 7 are SEC teams, right? And we think that Clemson's probably not better than Tennessee, or probably maybe better than LSU this year, but not better than a Tennessee team who's like the 4th, 5th, 6th best team in the conference. So this is just they're not on the same level right now, right? 10 years ago or 8 years ago, yes, but not anymore.
Yeah, hey, I just want to make sure everybody sign up for the newsletter. That link is right down below. You're going to miss out on Matt DeBerry's thoughts from the box. We've got Riding Home's going to be on there all the time. Kirby Talks, it's all on there. It's free. It's nothing for you to put your email in. You get it delivered to your box. You get 5 for Friday. On Fridays, you get our picks and thoughts on Thursday before I head to the game. These are like 4,000 word articles. Some of us are, writing 2,500 words, and everybody else is writing the rest. Oh, Matt, no Ryan giggle on that one. That's okay, though.
I thought that was really funny. Yeah, that was good.
Here's what I'd say about this, too, because I don't want to beat the young man up too much. And he'll understand this over time. A lot of y'all have said this already. Look, when you're younger, and he's not that young, but when you're younger, you think about what could be and what could have been and all of this stuff, and you think about this could have gone the right way, but you didn't make it go the right way. That's the difference. When I talk to my daughter who is 10, I try my best to say, no, you're trying to live in the, cupcakes, rainbows, and unicorns world. We need you to live in reality that is today. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You're not ready. You don't have your clothes picked up. Why do you think your mom's mad? There's all sorts of explanations. And, for Clemson to have played as well as they did, they scored 66 points one time last year. They just did it once already this year. But it didn't help them last year get anywhere closer to accomplishing their goals. But I think, it was there a little bit. But, dude, they crossed midfield, I think, twice or 3 times, Matt. They got their ass whipped. That's all that happened. It wasn't about missing plays. I think the way I would describe it, if I'm Dabo, I want to make sure I'm talking to my team and saying, hey, guys, we got our ass beat. But that game doesn't matter anymore because we can go win the league and we can get into the playoff. And then we can take them on again. And the truth is, it could be a very different game if they played again. It also could be, it wasn't that far from a 48-3 game, honestly. I mean, it certainly wasn't far from a 40-3 game. But it was 34-3. That was about what I thought it would be, Matt. It's something like that. I thought the line should have been 17. It was 14.
Yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. You can say that, we didn't execute at a high level and still score a touchdown. They didn't score a touchdown for 4 quarters. Yeah. Make adjustments. Good teams make in-game adjustments, not a week after you beat an App State and say, oh, man.
That ain't on the kids. That ain't on the kids, though. That ain't on the kids.
It's on both. It's on the whole team, the coaches and the players. And so that's why I say they've got a lot of work to do from a coaching aspect and just a talented roster standpoint. It's not there. And so you have to outcoach Kirby Smart and that staff if you're a team like Clemson who can't match up from a talent standpoint or Ryan in the trenches where the game still matters the most. And this kid's an offensive lineman, and he was getting probably pushed around by Nazir Stackhouse and Warren Brinson for a little bit, or Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, whoever was in there, right? Because there's a lot of guys who play. Georgia's deep. Clemson's not. And that's another reason why Georgia won comfortably throughout the second half and kind of, bullied them up as the game went on. So they can make all the adjustments they want. It's still going to be very, very tough for that team to beat Kirby Smart and the Dogs, whether they play next week or in December or in January.
They got bullied in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's the line of scrimmage is where you see the biggest difference between the powerhouses in college football and the non-powerhouses. You watch the SEC championship against the Georgia and Alabama, and then you watch an ACC championship or a Big 12 championship, and it's the same sport, but it's a completely different variation of it. It's we're going to beat you up front or we're going to give you a fight up front. And Clemson wasn't about that. And I think they played a little bit personnel different in that Clemson game. I think they let more of those young receivers loose against App State. I don't think that changes much, but if you're not going to beat Georgia up front, you've got to beat them with athletes on the outside. And Clemson was not able to do either of those things. It's why the game wasn't close.
Yeah, I think they're probably the second best team in the ACC. We'll see. They don't play Miami in the regular season, and so it to me it's all there, and they can beat Miami. I mean, that's my take at least. I mean, I don't know, but they got to get there first. I mean, they should. There's no game here they can't win. But the notion that they're not in the same conversation as Georgia right now. Could they beat them in a one-game scenario? It didn't look like it Saturday. I know, Matt, you want to go ahead, Matt.
I think Georgia should win that game 10 out of 10 times. There's no real excuse, especially after what we've seen for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, but Georgia sports, man, that's the problem with sports.
I get it. And I think Clemson could have a tough challenge against maybe Syracuse if they play Syracuse or Georgia Tech.
They do not play either of those teams.
Extremely favorable schedule because those are games that Clemson could lose to, and that's why you play the game. But if you line up the coaching staff and the players top to bottom, there's no reason why Georgia should lose to Clemson, especially like Ryan said, the difference of the two teams in the trenches. A lot would have to go Clemson's way for them to beat Georgia no matter where they play.
Ryan, last thought on this topic?
Yeah, you guys are cutting out a little bit for me there at the end. You're asking for final thought?
Yeah, I mean, you're his age, and I mean that's what I try. I try not to be. We got a slight delay. Give me 1 second here. You're his age, so I try not to beat guys up. I mean, it's a learning process. I remember playing, and you're like, man, I should have hit that free throw. If I hit that free throw, the game's different. Yeah, but you didn't hit the free throw, man. That's why you should be shooting more in the gym.
I'm trying to avoid talking here at the end because I think it might be on me, this Wi-Fi. But
okay, well, look, check out the newsletter. We're going to land this plane right now, and that's okay. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the newsletter.